Okay, so I've been given a few things to talk about, and I'm going to get started with, yes, panic attacks. Yeah, panic attacks, that's a good one. I have experience in that. And panic attacks...
So you have or you have?
I have had panic attacks, yes, in my time. Yes, I have panic attacks. And separation from people, yes, that can be a big one as well. And grief, yes, that happens with separation, depression and fear. Okay, so I think very, very specifically, this brings up a really important point and was a crucial point in my own spiritual recovery. I was very interested in a teacher called Dr. Hawkins, Dr. David R Hawkins, and he said, if you're serious about spiritual work and surrendering, at some point you'll face things like the terror of letting go. If you're serious about spiritual work, at some point, you may face, if you're a very strong spiritual seeker, the fear of the death of your ego may come up, which is like you're going to die if you go through a certain feeling and don't do something to distract or get away from that feeling. And Hawkins' advice, and he's one of my teachers. I have zero doubt in everything, only because I had a mystical experience. So if you have, so for me it's impossible not. And I followed his advice for about 12 years, and it's unrecognizable where I am from where I used to be. I mean, the miracle, I won't go into the list of miracles, but when you're serious about spiritual work or something deep-rooted is brought up, then extreme feelings can come up, and that can include, if you went through this feeling you could die, the thought that you would die if you went through the feeling, or you can have panic attacks, or symptoms like you're physically going to die unless you back down in some way from what you're going through. And for me, like panic attacks, so when Hawkins said that if you've got addiction problems, and I had a food addiction problem, a good place to sort that out is in a 12-step group. I did go to a place, and when I tried to give up that addiction, I remember I woke up suddenly at 4 o'clock when I was trying to put down that addictive behaviour. I woke up at 4 a.m., I think 3 a.m. Was it 3 a.m. or 4 a.m.? I can't remember. Around 3 a.m. and in the middle of the night, and I was trying to give up this addiction, and I didn't know what it was, but it felt like I couldn't breathe, and there was no air in the room, and I was suffocating to death. That's what it felt like to me, or I was and it was literally like someone had switched off all the air, and I couldn't breathe. So it felt like I was going to die, literally, like I was going to die of lack of oxygen. And I woke up, and I was having these strong physical symptoms, like I was going to die. And the thought popped into my head, and I don't really like to make excuses for myself, but I like making excuses. I think I wasn't fully 100% awake, but it was kind of like on autopilot, but maybe that's just a lie, justification. So I had the thought to use, and I went down to the kitchen, and I filled up on the food. And the miraculous thing, what I found was so miraculous. Like a few minutes before I couldn't breathe, I thought I was going to die, and after I'd had this huge quantity of food, I could breathe again. So wasn't that incredible? So anyway, I was mortified because I was aware of what I should have done. I should have been willing to go through that feeling of death and not back down and just went through it. And so I was so mortified that I'd done that, I made a commitment, because it happened. To be fair to me, I now knew waking up in the middle of the night with a panic attack might happen again. I was pretty certain it would. It seemed like it didn't want to get me during the day, but waking me up when I was half dazed and making me act out. So I had this thing, and this is what I'd say, like with the, like in that case, it was like giving up my dependency on food. But this can equally happen when you give up any external dependency. This extreme terror and panic can arise. It doesn't really matter. In that scenario, I had it with food, but it could equally happen with a breakup of a very long-standing relationship, good or bad. Sometimes you can even get this stuff with things you think are bad and you want to get rid of. And sometimes it might happen with something, like a loving parent or something. So these enormous feelings can come up. Or it could come up with any other addiction, alcohol, drugs, or whatever it may be. So what I'd say with that is, my teacher, well, I can share my experience. My teacher said you must go through that feeling and not use in any way, whether it be put on Game of Thrones, or whether it be eat food or drink alcohol or do anything, or so I was committed next time, and this was the thing with my thoughts. My thoughts came up, even though I've worked with many people, is that they can be slightly different with other people, is that it can be the thing of, my thought was, you're going to die. If you go through this feeling, you're going to die. That was the thought that came up. But I know with other people, just on a side that I've worked with, when I said go through any feeling when you're spiritually surrendering, I know another person said they thought if they let that feeling and they felt that feeling, they'd go insane. So death is not the only one. I think another person had insanity. But anyway, you probably get an extreme thought of not to go through and sit it through. Mine was, you're going to die. I remember when I was working with another lady, and she said, no, I could never go through that feeling because I will go insane if I felt that feeling. So I told her, anyway, that's bye-bye. She didn't go insane by feeling the feeling. And so I went through, and it was like facing death. And what I'm saying is, if you have these panic attacks or these extreme fear attacks or terror attacks, be willing to go through them and sit through them until you get that feeling of it passing. Because that is like revelation. I'm sure my consciousness jumped up a huge amount, but I had to sit through that for about 15 or 20 minutes. And if it's the very first time you have thoughts like it will never end and you're going to die constantly throughout that period, you've got to chicken out. So my thing was okay, so the worst thought that my head could come up, like if it was to go through a panic attack or feeling like suffocation or you're dying or terror, is to have the commitment to go through until it passes. And I remember I said, I was prepared as well, because I knew the first hit I didn't make it, I used on the food, but the second one, I had, actually for me, I'll tell you exactly what I did. I had a Hawkins DVD in the video machine, ready to play at about 3 a.m. And then I woke up at 3 a.m. and I had already prayed and committed that I was willing to die. I was physically willing to die and not get off my chair. So either the panic attack will kill me, or I'll go through it, one or the other. So I wasn't willing to back down from experiencing that. And it was 15 or 20 minutes. And I'm just sharing this about whatever it is, whether it be extreme fear or terror, whatever you may go through, and letting go of either an addictive substance or a dependent relationship, or dependent relationships, or a dramatic shift in circumstance. You can be attached to anything. You can be attached to a job, a relationship, your age. Some of these attachments can be very big. So go through the feeling, and you'll have a thought. I've always told everyone, whatever the worst thought is, be willing to go through that. Don't back down from feeling the feeling until it passes, until you experience some relief. And so I was willing to die, literally. I said, I'm sitting on this chair. I had Hawkins going on in the background. I said, I'm not getting off this chair. Either the panic attack kills me, or it passes. So I was just willing to sit on that chair for the whole rest of the night and either drop down dead or not. That was the willingness I had, and it was 15 or 20 minutes, and it was like, you know, I didn't know it was going to end. I didn't know whether I was going to drop down dead. I mean, I just didn't have. I mean, I had the experience and I had the energy of Hawkins, so I had the knowingness that he told the truth. So I did have his vibration supporting me to not back down. And after about 15 minutes or so, I could start to breathe again. And then I had 3 more panic attacks for the preceding nights. And I sort of look at it like it was like 3 more challenges to see if I would go through without backing down. But it was easier. Once I knew it would pass, it was like a dramatic, I'm sure it was a dramatic shift in my consciousness. I knew that, to my experience, that was the worst terror in my life that I had to go through. That was the worst one. And it was like the fear of dying if I went through a panic attack without using anything and just being willing to die. So I sort of faced it straight on. I had 3 more, which were really easy to do, because I would say I had the energy now of having witnessed it pass. So I'm not frightened of panic attacks any longer. I'm just not frightened of them. And actually after that, after the 3 more, they came in rapid. I think that was the best shot it could give me at the time, my ego, you know, with these panic attacks. And after 3 more, essentially I haven't had a panic attack for about, I don't know, 9 or 10 years. So it's like they don't come up after you've mastered it. It's like, you know, the ego's not going to throw a panic attack because you're not afraid of them. So hence the thing, and hence the thing. So what I'd say is be willing to sit it through, or you can put something spiritual on in the background, which I did.
Yeah.
And sit it through, and your head will say everything. You're going to die. Call an ambulance. Eat some donuts. I don't know what it'll come up with, but you know, watch TV. Yeah. Watch TV. Do butt in if you have any questions.
If I may say, I don't know if that's panic attack.
Okay.
Because I'm not familiar with that. I never had them. I mean, I'm very quite fearful guy, and got a lot of anxiety and fear, and you know, which I can't recognize it now. And it was with me all my life. Very sadly, you know, I didn't realize, just since being in recovery and working with myself, I realized of that. So I don't know if these are panic attacks, but it is it's a huge amount of, it's like terror, really. It's like, that was in my chicken Wednesday, not that. I'm waking up, really, it's almost every day now, but today was really, really hard. But what happened, because I'm sleeping, and it is like a hole. If I'm falling in a hole, a sort of spider hole, you know, and it's eating me, something like that. I don't know, probably some thoughts inducing to that whole analogy, because I don't like the place I'm living in a basement. Which, as a product of my separation, as a product of this really tough time, probably the place I'm living symbolizes all what I'm going through. So I wake up in the night with that sort of really, and it's the first thing, what I'm doing here, why I'm here, you know, it's like being prisoner or something like that, you know. But in the morning when I'm really sleeping, I'm suffocated, but also I'm in fear. I'm in a huge amount of fear, and it's like a physical dislike of the situation. But it's a huge amount of fear, and also frightened me to feel like that. Because it's like I'm afraid of getting into depression or something like that, you know. Obviously I'm going through a hard time, but you know, people close to me say, be careful, I don't see you very well, or you know, you look too tired, and you know, I can't sleep. That's the truth, you know. still went to bed like 4 o'clock in the morning yesterday, you know. I mean, not went to bed, went to bed at 11 o'clock, but, you know, just wake up and read and just get no sleep and wake up again and read some more. And then it's what I was sharing in the check-in, you know, sometimes instead of reading something, you know, good, I just read a you know, stupid thing or just look at a stupid YouTube video, you know. Yeah, so I don't know if it's a panic attack, but the way you describe it is very much that. It's like really, it's a horrible feeling, you know, a horrible feeling of fear.
Well, you know, it can be a panic attack, or it can be just very high levels of fear ongoing.
Depression.
Depression. I mean, depression is like a very, very negative state with hardly any energy and seeing no hope everywhere. That's like a constant state. Fear is a bit of a higher energy level. Fear and terror is a slightly higher energy level, but it could be a mixture of. There can be some depression as well going on and extreme fear. What I would say with that is, if it's like a spike of terror, then sit through it and see if you can get some relief, and be willing to go really face it. I think if you've got like an hour or something, you may have to go to work, but if you wake up and there's an hour, you just sit down and see. For me, really, it was like seeing if it can kill me or not, and seeing whether I can, and being willing to die. For me, I mean, it might be a different thought for different people, but different people can get slightly different thoughts. Like, I'll go insane if I feel this feeling, or I'll have no money if I feel this feeling, or everyone. But it could be different things. But be willing, and if it's a thing, if it's like the final terror, like a massive terror, then having that attitude, you should quickly be able to. I shouldn't really say this. You should either die. No, joke. But you should be able to check out. You know, at least you should be able to know that you can bear it if you're doing half an hour without backing away from it.
What I try to do, because it happens when I wake up, I just try to keep sleeping. You know, I try to fall asleep again to get away with that.
I would, yeah. Well, that's trying to get away from it. You
Yeah.
see. So I would like, if you have to go to work, spend as much time immediately just sitting in a chair with your back straight, and if you've got half an hour, even if you have to rush, just sitting down and being 100% present with it. Don't try and escape it. So you have the thing of non-resistance. Okay, and here's another thing. You know, like, I mean, it might take a shape. Like the fear may take a shape or an image or a symbolic representation. But for the purposes of feeling through the feeling, you try and let that go. Don't indulge in the thoughts of like it's an image or it represents something or whatever it is, because that's like labeling and that's going off into the thinking. So you really want to be like, say it's extreme terror or fear, and so the thing is be sitting down, and if you've got half an hour, it's like going, you know, you're going to sit and you've got to face. It'll come up with thoughts why you should not continue, probably throughout the whole experience. But you just like let the thoughts go. If it comes up with a threat, like you're going to die or you go insane, then just try and let those thoughts go, even if they're, in my case, they were constant. Let them go, and just really try and welcome the symptoms or the feelings that are coming up. And then there'll be like a resistance. Like if I welcome a panic attack, or if I welcome breathlessness, or if I welcome extreme terror, there'll be even more. But that is the guidance. Invite as much. Don't have any resistance. Let it come up and do its worst. Yeah. And then do that. And usually, if it's an acute thing or one of the big patterns, you just doing a few hours of this, you should be able to master the feeling. If it's more of a chronic, generalized fear, then you'll have to do it in batches, like every morning half an hour or every evening half an hour. So the way to do it is like see what resistance you have in your own thoughts to not go through that feeling, and then be willing to go through, when it comes up next time, be willing to just sit through it and not allow that thought to derail you.
And what about the root of it? What about just let them know why is it happening?
No.
And probably attack the cause of it.
Yeah. Well, if it's like if you're in a mild place where you're feeling generally spiritually well, you can of course do the counsellings or the Course in Miracles alongside it. But generally, when there's extreme feelings going on, the most important thing is to let go of the feelings. Yes, do some spiritual work and cancel beliefs or make the thoughts meaningless. Absolutely, but just the more effective use of time, you can do some of your time devoted to letting the thoughts and the cause go. But the more effective use of time is to feel the feelings out or to go through the feelings. That would be more productive, because it's like you've got too much suppressed anger or terror or fear or panic, or you're letting go of something very big. So just, also on another level, even if you were just to be able, you'd have to be very spiritually advanced just to be able to feel feelings and not go off into thoughts, i.e. not labeling the experiencing and not resisting the experience of coming up. That would take you, as a path to enlightenment, that would also take you there, because you have the thing of not engaging in thought, not making a story out of anything, not labeling it. Even the thought, well, I have to find the cause before I could let it go. That's a lot of thinking. You've already indulged a lot of thought, you see. So the practice of just mindfully allowing the feelings to be experienced is also in and of itself will take you to happiness, because you're doing the two things at the most advanced level, i.e. not engaging in thought, not labeling or images or whatever, making a story about and non-resisting. So through that alone would take you to enlightenment without having to it's because at 3 years old this happened to me with my parents, you see. And that's a lot of but with extreme feelings, I'd say you can do that work, but spend most of your time feeling the feelings. When you're like when you got a panic attack, I haven't got time to investigate what happened to me when I was 3 years old.
Can I just say one tiny thing?
Please come in.
When I've had the symptoms, it sounds like there's confusion as well, and I've spent most of my life rushing into the intellect and reading books and asking why, but I've learnt recently that is another avoidance technique from the feelings, and so the pursuit of why is a big question. It keeps us safe because we go back into the head and we don't have to do what Sabir is saying. But I also see your point was, hold on, I am confused. What do I do with my confusion? And what I'd say to that is that I think whatever it is, the answers will come at another future point when they're ready. Then an insight will drop into you, and you'll understand and have a perspective on what this field was about. But I think at the moment Sabir is saying that the more immediate concern is to stay away from in the mind, because it's much safer. I think we're safer, aren't we, in the mind? And then we're safer being preoccupied with running around the houses, and this is what I do so much, and asking questions and looking for answers. But that's all to avoid this chair work, which I don't want to do. I'd rather intellectualise. I don't want to do the chair work. It's like I don't want to feel it. It's like I don't want to feel nice. You were up here in the chest. Yeah. Yesterday I had such heavy weights down here. That's the stuff that I've been running from all my life until recently. I was able to be taught what my mechanism was that I was escaping. So it's just another escape and another avoidance technique. And later you will get the answers from the confusion, or later I think we do, the answers do come.
Yeah, no, I agree. Often with extreme feelings, I think it's more important to feel the feelings and not engage in thoughts. And you can spend, if you're familiar with the Course in Miracles, you know, as a form of clearing repetitive thoughts, you can cancel them or whatever. But you know, feeling the feelings is paramount. And then you go up to a higher level of consciousness where things do intuitively come to you. But on a certain level, I mean, just so you feel better, for me that would be a pathway of enlightenment. A pathway, you wouldn't have to do anything else. You know, it would be like non-resist the present moment and not engage in labeling the present moment. Even from the split second the thought emerges, that alone, unhook immediately and just allow whatever is being experienced to be fully experienced.
Like stay in the body. Is that?
Well, at the most advanced level, you wouldn't say stay in the body because you're beyond the body, you see. You're not the body. But that's of course.
Wherever the symptoms are, should you try and locate
yes,
them
you allow the symptoms. Okay, well, it's a really good thing you said there. Actually, can allow me. Like when I used to get, because the ultimate truth is that I'm limitless, I'm eternal. I'm an infinite being. I'm an eternal being, beyond all limitation. That's the absolute truth. And I think a lot of spiritual seekers have experienced that limitless presence that is beyond all limits. It was really, I'm digressing, but I think it's important, not important, it's be useful to everyone, is the thing of like, in the body is location, yeah? But yes, it's true. Location is created by belief. That's what creates the whole universe of being located in a specific place. If you didn't have any beliefs to do with location, then you'd be limitless, you see, beyond location. So that's a very good point, because in my early thing was that I would get gout attacks in my feet. Yeah, so it'd be like a horrific pain, but this can be used with any feeling as a metaphor. So I get this horrible pain. Gout is like suddenly your skin swells up enormously, and because the skin is stretching so quickly, so fast, like literally in seconds, it's like inflaming up, and the skin is just literally being pulled apart. You get the most excruciating pain in the feet, very excruciating gout pain. So my thing was to do the practice I've just said, which is a Hawkins practice. Don't label, make a story about it, just experience it without resistance. And if there's pain, invite as much pain as possible to be there. Don't have an attitude of resistance or not wanting it to be there, which is resistance. So let it be there, and there would be, as you develop this attitude, I sometimes joke with people, I call it the spiritual warrior attitude. Like, most people would like try and resist it or take it away or push it down with their thoughts. But if you have the, what I call the spiritual warrior attitude, your attitude to life is always to experience, never to resist. So when extreme feelings like pains or feelings or body symptoms come up, is to like welcome them and allow them 100%, you see. This also goes for feelings like terror and fear. Anyway, so it was there. So when you have a gout attack in my toes, yeah, so it would be like location, like in my foot. So, but I'd just go, so I'd be having this excruciating pain, and there'd be thoughts like there's a pain in my foot, and I could feel this location over there. But then you just feel it and let go. Let go, and then the pain would start to dull out. And then I would do the thing, which was the natural thing, is like the idea that it's in a location in space, like it's in my foot, is a thought. And that my foot is located down there is also another thought. So I'd let that go, and then I'd go off into this like peaceful oneness, really, where there was no tracking of the body whatsoever. It was just like peace. So that's the way you let go of having a feeling of limitation by the body. And through doing that over the many years, a lot of the time I'm not aware of the body. Now, I know a lot of people don't like what I've just said, but I do go along with the course, which is for me letting go all the limits to limitless love. So anything when I experience a limit in the present moment is because I'm kind of creating that experiencing of limit. So anyway, that's my view. You can have different views. I know there's a huge chunk of therapy and stuff about being in your body. I'm aware of that, and that's just. But to feel limited in the present moment is not my thing.
Could be a good starting point, couldn't it?
Pardon?
It could be a starting point.
Well, it has to be.
Yeah.
I mean, your experiencing is you are the thinking and the body to begin with.
Mm.
So it seems like your ego is directing the show. So, like, I'm in my body, I'm going to feel the pain in my foot, and it seems like my thinking is orchestrating the whole program. I'm in my body in my thoughts, and I'm going to decide to feel the feelings. So that's what it's like in the beginning. So yes, you do that because that's what your experience of yourself in the beginning is that you are your thinking and your body, and that's how you reference the world from a place of location, from a place of your mental energy. Later on, as you develop, you start to realize that experiencing the body or experiencing that mental energy as self is because you're identifying with the thoughts and you're identifying with locations within the body. So this then creates the location thought persona of not being in oneness or not experiencing limitless connection, because there's some identification with some limiting idea within the consciousness. So later, when you start to experience those states, more advanced states, then it's quite easy to let those. But in the beginning, that's your only point of referencing is I am this physical body in this location, and this mental energy is me. You have no experience that your true nature is beyond that. So yes, so you have to start off at that point. Absolutely. I think the thing with the Course in Miracles or teachers of enlightenment say that you're not your body and you're not your thoughts. So once you start to get that experience, when you do hook back into the mental energy of the thinker, or you do hook back into feeling limited and trapped in the body, you know that something has limited you, which you can release. So, but yes, it's a very good intermediate thing to do. Or to do, as long as you feel you are the body, then yeah, not that you feel that you are the body, it's just, I would say, sensations may come up in the body, and then there's a natural allowing that.
I find it helpful to locate them, so if you wake up with a malaise and a discomfort, I find it helpful to say, it's here, or it's here. I really find that helpful, because it then isolates into one unit, and then it's kind of like manageable in some way. Yeah. Otherwise I'm just like, something's wrong with me and I don't know what it is, and then the confusion kicks in. So sometimes I find it and then I put my hand on it, and that's my starting point. I agree.
I mean, that's what I would do with my gout. In the beginning I'd have all my awareness, and it seems like all my awareness is just in my foot with that feeling. But later as it starts to dissipate, then I'll let go of even location later on, you see, and then that dissipates as well. So I agree, yeah, absolutely. So yeah, and these type of extreme, it'd be very usual for these extreme feelings to come up if a long-standing relationship is released. There can be huge attachment going. So that's quite a normal thing. And also, with depression, again, just the same things. Depression is more of a low-level generalized thing. So that's more like a chronic thing. But again, don't label and spend time just trying to be one with it, experience it, not resist it. And then you'll find over time, just by spending those periods of being with it, that it'll release. Okay. Also, if it involves separation and you feel like you're responsible for looking after the parties, or you feel guilt that you weren't good enough after a relationship split of any type, then again, feel the guilt out. Also, on an esoteric level, I know many people would argue with this, on an esoteric level, like God, when it comes to guilt, God is responsible for running the universe. A lot of people are programmed with collective belief systems of, if you abandon or leave someone, you're responsible and you should go run back and look after them for whatever reason. There's many what I call collective programs. I mean, if a relationship seems to be unhealthy, usually it is unhealthy if it seems to be unhealthy, and I would just let go, feel the guilt out, not label it, and go through the release of that attachment. And then when you come to peace and serenity on the other side, if you still want to help that person from a place of wholeness or oneness or intuitiveness, then you do. But guilt is doing it out of a very negative energy if you feel you have to remain for people. So I would release the guilt. And often remember, on a psychic level, because we're all connected, often you getting happy, sometimes you looking after yourself and releasing the attachment, sometimes other people get well, just by you not looking after them and letting them go. And you getting well, they pick up the energy. See, they sometimes get well and go, oh, that person's no longer going to look after me. They can be angry for a while, and then, oh, well, I'll look up. You find God that's the opportunity they needed to take responsibility and start doing the things for themselves. So anyway, guilt is actually, this was another thing that was mentioned. Guilt is one of the through Hawkins' research, guilt is actually one of the worst. It's nearly the lowest vibration you can sustain.
One up from shame.
Yeah, one up from shame. Nearly, I said. But yeah, it is one up from shame, guilt, because it's the attractive field of wanting punishment and seeking punishment. And in fact, holding guilt, one should have a red hot poker if one is feeling guilty, to not help the world, but to release the guilt first. Like a lot of people think I'm guilty, so let me take action or help that person to relieve the guilt. Anyway, my own personal view on it would be release the guilt in myself and then see if action is required. Because holding that energetic vibration of guilt, I'm not doing enough, I'm not doing enough to support somebody or prepare for somebody's future or whatever it is, that guilt, it creates an energy vibration, which means things are going to go bad for you and for whoever you're thinking about.
Did you say, you said something else, creates an energy field of wanting punishment, did you say?
Yeah, it's an attractive field. Holding the vibration of guilt is an attractive field. It's an energetic vibration, a severely negative, destructive energetic vibration. Your thoughts will start to align. All the types of thoughts you get will be from the attractive field of guilt. How bad I am, or you project it out how guilty that person is for what they've done to me.
What is the attractive field?
Guilt. It's a negative attractive field. It's an energetic.
Is an attractive field and
it attracts as well. Yeah, you tune into radio guilt.
Right.
Yeah,
okay.
you pick up collective thoughts from the collective that vibrate with guilt. What you did to me, what you said, you're guilty. And then I'm guilty for what I did in the past, or I'm not doing enough to help people. So you're just going to pick up from the radio station, you're going to pick up on radio FM guilt.
Are you prone to that if you are prone to thinking that you deserve punishment?
Well, that's one of the thoughts. That's one of the thoughts. You'll consciously and unconsciously seek punishment and destruction. Either you'll try and destroy yourself or you'll destroy somebody else. So, shame and guilt, and here's the thing where many people might disagree with me. For me, it's most important to maintain the high spiritual vibration, and especially, we've got the negative energy feelings are shame, guilt, fear, and anger. Those are some of the big ones. And to just be in that vibration, for me, it's more important to feel those feelings out. It could be through doing like spiritual work, or
I think I must have.
oh,